On Law Weekly today, we chat with the fifth woman in Nigeria to be conferred with the rank of Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Funke Adekoya. We have her views on discrimination against women, gender equality, and practical ways to challenge the stereotypes. We also revisit the valedictory court session in honor of Justice Bode Rhodes-Vivour as he clocks 70 and retires from the bench. We have some more of the major highlights from that session, plus our recap of some of the top stories from the courtrooms. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Shola Shieli. Let's begin straight away with our conversation. Funke Adekoya SAN has over 45 years experience in litigation and arbitration and is widely recognized and respected locally and internationally. At various times, she's been adjudged the most outstanding female legal practitioner in Nigeria and has been recognized by Who's Who Legal many times over as a global and national leader in arbitration and litigation. In the course of that journey, she faced gender discrimination and learned to deal with it. In this interview, she shares with Law Weekly why she chose to study law and how she's chosen to challenge.
It just interested me, the relationship between people, the relationship between freedoms and the constraints that a society imposes on individuals to ensure that the society runs smoothly. So where does my freedom stop? And those are the things that law and regulation are supposed to make smooth and clear. So if you have good laws, the society runs smoothly. So I think for me, that was my interest in law, more out of my interest in how a society works and can run smoothly. Possibly the first time I faced discrimination was when I was doing my youth service. And I was posted to the north. And I had to represent a client. And the client said, yeah, I'm looking for the lawyer. I'm like, yeah, I'm the lawyer assigned to your case.
As a youth corp?
As a youth corper. And the client was like, nah, that's not happening. I want a lawyer. Thankfully, my boss, late Alhaji Abdullah Ibrahim, was very open. And he took it as a personal affront that he had assigned someone to handle this man's case. And this man was rejecting his assignment only on the basis that I was a woman. And he took it from the point of view of, you don't trust my judgment. She can do it. If you don't want her to do it, take your file away. So that helped to bolster my confidence. But throughout my service here, I encountered that type of discrimination. Women were not expected to be in court, were not expected to sit at meetings where men were generally in the majority. And I think that was my first opening to discrimination.
So you faced discrimination as a youth corps member, as a single person. I don't imagine that changed when you got married. And how did you deal with it?
It didn't stop. In fact, what I discovered when I got married, I started married life in Kaduna, no traffic, everything was easy. And as I said, I had a very supportive boss. So I used to take my son to the office in his little basket, and he'd sit in the corner, and I'd do my work, and sometimes it would be Alhaji Ibrahim who would say, go home, time to go home. It was actually when I came to Lagos that I really recognized that there is gender discrimination in the legal profession. Because then, first of all, even to get a job in Lagos, that was the first time this question of, oh, you're married, you're going to have to be taking care of children.
How would you cope?
How would you cope? And these were from firms that I had known even before I had finished in the university. New younger lawyers who were starting up their own practices and were very unwilling to, and somebody actually said, we'd really love to have you, but we had a woman last year and she just upped and left. Meaning what? Women are not reliable. I'm like, okay. So, and it just continued from there. And then this crazy belief that we've had in the legal profession for the 45 years that I have been a lawyer, that there are no ladies at the bar. it doesn't help women in the profession. I mean, in Kenya, the judges, female judges, are lady justice. They acknowledge their gender. So there is discrimination in the legal profession, and we women lawyers are not doing as much as we should be doing.
What should we be doing?
We should, first of all, we should all, at every opportunity, object to this, there are no ladies at the bar. It doesn't help our case. It's not a question of we're all equal, because we know we are not all equal. Look at the profession. How many women-owned law firms are there? How many female partners are there in established law firms? How many female legal practitioners have really risen to the top? How many female legal practitioners are SANs when you compare with the number of male legal practitioners? So it's not a question of we're all equal. So we should start from that. And then we should be able to push the initiatives that will enable us to perform at our best. In ALEX, we have a creche for our female lawyers and our female staff. Why? Because after probably 8 or 9 years, I was able to persuade my partners that it doesn't make economic sense to train women lawyers, get them to up their game, and then they get married, and they can't perform at the level you have trained them to perform because they're at work and their minds are on their 3 or 4 month-old babies that they have left at home. So when you look at it just from the economic angle, and maybe that's the angle that made the case. But now we have young mothers who bring their children into the creche. They're sitting at their desks, they're doing their work.
Their mind is at rest.
Their mind is at rest.
And they can focus
because when they want to breastfeed, they just walk around the corner, walk into the creche, breastfeed, child is there with the nanny, they come back, they can focus. When it's time for them to go home, they pick up their babies, they go home. These are the things that we as women lawyers and as women generally need to push for. The economic argument, why women should be allowed to perform at the level that God has enabled them to.
I want to come back to something that you said about the stigma, the stereotypes that women face. You know, apart from the legal profession, it also happens in the larger society. Why do you think that it's difficult to attain equal rights and opportunities for women? I've even heard some people say that gender equality is not possible.
It is a very slow process, but it will happen. It will happen, and it may even happen faster than we think. And the reason is simple: economics. 50, 60 years ago, a man wanted to marry a wife who would take care of him and take care of the home and take care of the children. And it was his job to be the breadwinner. And women were socialized in that same mindset. I'm not supposed to work. My work is homework. Keep the house clean, neat and tidy. Support my husband, support my children. Economics have changed. A man now, very few men can be a sole breadwinner. So we've moved from a stage where men who are breadwinners and their wives helped, and they didn't acknowledge it. They didn't notice that the curtains have changed or that there's a new freezer in the kitchen. And even when they acknowledge, oh, that's nice. Oh, you bought it in the freezer. It's kitchen. It's your area. It's your territory. Now you have younger couples who sit down and budget together. I pay the rent, you pay the school fees. I buy the food, you buy the petrol. I pay for the gas, you pay for the electricity. Now it's a question of we're building a family together. We're building a home together. So things are changing much faster because of that. And because the economics are changing. The men, especially the younger generation, have come to realize that, look, if I need her financial input for us as a family to live the lifestyle I'd like us to live, then I must assist to ensure that she can earn that income. And so you find more young fathers going to teachers' days, open days in school, PTA meetings, to be sure their children are getting the best education. It used to be the woman would go to work. From work, she run to PTA meeting. She come back. From there, she runs to the market. From there, now you see men in the supermarkets. They themselves are picking up things on the home. So things are changing.
Now, as one of the country's leading lawyers, I imagine that you feel scandalized by the recent reports on the appointment of judges. We heard that some of them couldn't answer basic legal questions. Your father was on the bench, and I don't imagine that things have always been this way. Now, there are a lot of theories as to why things have gone south, but what, in your opinion, should the NBA be doing, especially when you consider the long-term impact of this on the legal profession?
Well, I think the NBA is off to a good start, even just by speaking out and saying, hey, what is it I'm seeing? And I commend our NBA president for that, because this is not the first time. I am chairman of the Justice Reform Project. Sometime last year, there was a similar appointment.
Yes, and the JRP.
And the JRP not only spoke out, we instituted a legal action to say these people do not comply with the same guidelines that you put in place. The matter was thrown out on the basis that we have no locus. We are currently in the Court of Appeal. So the legal profession has to speak out. You're right, it wasn't this bad. It wasn't like this. I think the reason why it has become an issue of jobs for the boys is a question again of the economics. There's no work.
So they will learn on the job.
They will learn on the job. There's no work, so people are bringing their proteges. It's just a job. Whether they have the skills or not, they're bringing their proteges to the High Court to start with. It's a job. Once I can get you there, you are government picking. They'll pay your salary, they give you accommodation, and you just mark time. Then you get to a point where you're eligible to go to the Court of Appeal. And then you either lobby or you have a godfather who then puts your name forward as well to go to the Court of Appeal. So we're just, I think personally, in the profession today, we are in a race to the bottom.
So you'd be expecting the NBA to challenge by filing a suit?
Yes, yes. At least they won't say they don't have locus.
Finally, let's talk about your recent appointment as President, International Lawyers for Africa. Congratulations on that appointment.
Thank you very much.
Now, I read on social media that as President of ILFA, you would seek to reinforce the core connections at the heart of ILFA by also speaking to the next generation of young lawyers. Now, tell us a little about the work that ILFA does and how you hope to achieve these moves with the young lawyers.
ILFA, International Lawyers for Africa, is a United Kingdom charity established by some English lawyers who were seeking to do good by way of providing opportunities for African lawyers to come and spend time in English law firms and gain from the experiences that English law firms had in special areas, basically in commercial and corporate law practice areas. So it's a charity. And the flagship program is this secondment program, where by virtue of national committees set up in African countries, people apply to go on this secondment program. The national committees select the best and the brightest, and then they are sent to the UK and spend a period of time. They go to Oxford, they take lectures in Oxford, they take lectures in Cambridge, and then they spend this period of time in various offices of these UK law firms where they're exposed to cutting-edge legal practice. So it's some sort of a skills transfer. Now, the benefit for the UK law firms is that as they also represent clients who have business in African countries, they want to be sure that their clients have the best legal expertise available to them. So they look at it from that perspective. From the African perspective, it gives us as African lawyers an opportunity to see how law is practiced in other countries and the priorities that they give to certain things.
Welcome back. It's no longer news that Justice Bode Rhodes-Vivour has retired from the Supreme Court after attaining the mandatory retirement age of 70. In line with the tradition of the court, the Chief Justice of Nigeria leads out all the justices of the court for a valedictory session to extol the virtues of the retiring justice. We have some of the major highlights from there up next. It was a session that was witnessed by very many senior members of the bench and the bar, as well as other guests. The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Ibrahim Mohammed, led others in celebrating the retiring justice.
We're here today to felicitate with an accomplished jurisprudential iconoclast that has offered the best of his intellect to the advancement of the legal profession through his several years of inimitable adjudications.
You'll be remembered as one of those justices who dismantled the edifice of technicalities that for decades before your generation stood on the way of justice.
While also celebrating the retiring jurist, the president of the bar, Olumide Akpata, took the opportunity to clear the air on certain comments he reportedly made on the recent appointments of judges.
My Lord, on the 18th of March 2021, as president of the NBA, I chaired the National Executive Committee meeting, which is the second highest decision-making body of the NBA. It was held in Uyo, my Lord. I noted that during this exercise, I noted to the body that during this exercise I had concerns, a few concerns about the persons interviewed and the process. And I also informed that body that I had written to my Lord, the Chief Justice of Nigeria in this regard. I also informed the body that I am grateful to my Lord, the Chief Justice of Nigeria and the NJC that sequel to the receipt of my letter, certain steps were taken. 2 candidates were later dropped from the 20 who were to be approved, and I am assured that the process of selecting justices will be looked into. Unfortunately, one of us rushed to the online media blogs and published his own version of my comments at the meeting, quoting me out of context, not entirely incorrectly, but my Lord, it would have been better for that individual to wait for the NBA to issue its communique in this regard. My Lord, the relationship that exists between the bar and the bench is one that must be cherished and sustained. And you have my assurance that the NBA under my watch will continue to cherish and strive to sustain that relationship. Because I know that my Lord, the CJN, will also be responsive to all that comes from the bar to the bench. My lords will agree with me that the bench needs more and not less of the pedigree of my Lord Justice Rhodes-Vivour in this court and the courts below. And if we must achieve this, appointment on merit must trump any other consideration.
For the retiring justice, there is a need for reforms on some issues affecting the practice of law in Nigeria. It started with the issue of corruption.
Corruption exists in all the countries of the earth. Nigeria is no exception. What should be done is to reduce it drastically, thereby making our dear country an exception by building credible and transparent systems. Number 2, elections. Elections in Nigeria are protracted. The stakes are too high. Consequently, most elections are usually resolved by the courts, simply because most politicians are never satisfied with the results announced by the regulatory body charged with the conduct of elections, INEC. In Udom versus Umana, 2016, part 1526, this is what I had to say. A careful reading and understanding of decided authorities show that a petitioner has an uphill task proving his petition in accordance with the Electoral Act. The petitioner is always saddled with difficult requirements and procedures it is suggested by me that the Electoral Act should be amended to shift the burden of proof to INEC to prove that it conducted a fair and reasonable election. Number 3, national security. In Dokubo Asari versus FRN, 2006, 11 Nigerian Weekly Law Reports, part 991 at page 324, as a judge of the Court of Appeal, I said that where national security is threatened, or there is the real likelihood of it being threatened, human rights or the individual rights must be suspended until the national security can be protected or well taken care of, end of quote. National security must be visibly threatened before anyone is denied his rights. No one should be denied his rights on the whims and fancies of anyone in authority.
Law Weekly wishes Justice Bode Rhodes-Vivour a happy retirement. And on the home stretch, we bring you a recap of some of the activities from the courtrooms.
We begin with the report that the Akwa Ibom State High Court, sitting in Ikorekpene, has sentenced Professor Peter Ogbang of the University of Uyo, South Nigeria, to 3 years imprisonment on a 2-count charge of manipulation and falsification of election results. The suit was instituted by the State's Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) against the university lecturer. Professor Peter Ogbang, who was the collation and returning officer in the 2019 Akwa Ibom Northwest National Assembly election, has been standing trial before the court since November 2020 on the allegation that he manipulated scores of 2 political parties, falsified and announced fake results in 2 local government areas of Etimekpo and Orukanam. From Akwa Ibom, we go to Edo State, where the Federal High Court, sitting in Benin City, the Edo State capital, has ruled that it has jurisdiction to entertain the money laundering charge brought by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) against the People's Democratic Party (PDP) in its governorship candidate in the state, Osage Ize-Iyamu, and 4 others. Ize-Iyamu and the other defendants, a former deputy governor of Edo State, Lucky Imasuen, former PDP chairman in Edo State, Chief Dan Obi, Tony Aziegbemi, and Efe Erumohe, were alleged to have sometime in March 2015 in Benin City directly taken possession of the sum of 700 million naira without any contract award, which sum was allegedly part of the proceeds of an unlawful act. In Ekiti State, the Federal High Court, sitting in Ado-Ekiti, the state capital, has adjourned to April 14th the suit seeking to reverse the dismissal of a pregnant police woman. The State Attorney General, Wale Fakunra, who filed the suit in February, is seeking an order of the court to nullify Section 127 of the Police Act and Regulations, which provides for the discharge from the police force female officers who get pregnant out of wedlock. The Ekiti State Commissioner of Police and the Police Service Commission are listed as defendants in the suit. The defendant had filed a preliminary objection challenging the suit. In Ogun State, the Federal High Court, sitting in Abeokuta, the state capital, has granted bail to 4 suspected smugglers arraigned by the state's area commander of the Nigeria Customs Service. The suspects were arraigned on a 3-count charge of economic saboteur, which includes smuggling, evasion of excise duties, and orchestrating attacks on officers while on constitutional duties. Presiding Justice Shitu Muhammad Abubakar granted the suspects bail in the sum of 2 million naira each, with 2 sureties who must be resident in the state and who must show their national identification card or international passport. He adjourned to April 26 for commencement of trial. And we round off with the report that the Federal High Court, sitting in Lagos, has ordered the extension of the deadline for National Identity Number NIN by 2 months. Justice Maureen Onyetenu granted the extension while delivering a ruling in a fundamental rights suit filed by legal practitioner Monday Ubani. In the suit, Ubani had contended that the initial 2 weeks ultimatum, now extended to April 6, 2021, given to telecommunication operators to block SIM cards of Nigerians who have not registered their SIM card with NIN, if allowed, will infringe on his constitutionally granted right to freedom of expression, right to own movable property, and right to life.
And that's our program this week. Don't forget that you can find these and past episodes of the program on our YouTube page. I'm Shola Shieli. Thank you for watching and see you next week.